Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, so we're here today to go over our group discussion around grief and bereavement. So let's start off with the brief mindfulness exercise. Um, I will set a timer for 1 minute, and I just want you to notice what is something that you haven't heard, tasted, smelled, or noticed or felt where you're at right now in the room you're in. Okay, I'm gonna start now. Okay, let's come back together. So, would anyone like to share what's something they hadn't noticed before through one of the senses?
I immediately, upon closing my eyes and sitting back, really felt like my seat in the chair. And that allowed the whole rest of my body to just relax into that. I was profound. It felt great.
Hmm.
I have to say it was a sense of joy about seeing you again and people who are in my orbit and understand. Just sort of that sense of joy because last night was kind of heavy as I watched all the videos and thought about the grief support group I attended on Thursday night for pet loss. So I had a very heavy Thursday, Friday night. So joy was my first thing that I hadn't experienced. So that's awesome.
That is awesome.
That
Thanks
is
for
awesome.
sharing. For me, it was just noticing how things are stacked, not be the exact right wording, but just like the shape structure of the things in my room and
Hmm.
how, like there's the desk and then there's the legs and how desk is like supported by the legs or um, the bookshelf, how there's the sides and then there's the shelves and how they're like connected together and like formed together to support one another.
Oh, that's like interdependency. That's so
It's
nice.
I love
which
that. It's
Yeah.
structure. It's like structure and support. I love
Yeah.
that.
That's perfect because what I wanted to briefly go over today is what's supports are we utilizing in our lives right now in general, and which ones do we want to use between now and the next time we meet?
So good. That's very, very good. This is so good. I'm using a lot of support right now because my pup injured her back knee. She's a big, big, big
Oh,
girl Rottweiler, and she's predisposed to this injury. This was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. She's coming up on her third week. The vet was just like, let's try non-surgical intervention first, keep her rested and off this leg as much as possible. But I live on the second floor. So
oh,
I have had my dog, my parents love her. She's over there a lot anyway. But my parents have been so gracious in allowing her to stay at their house and rehabilitate. So I'm also staying over there a couple nights a week because I miss her. I hate being apart from her. So they have been, it is so lovely to be able to rely on people. And I just feel very lucky that this is an option for me because I did not live near my family for 20 some years. And like the ability to just, that's just, it's so it's so moving to me. Like I'm like so emotionally moved by it. So I'm using them quite a bit. And what other supports am I using? And I mentioned this earlier, our interventions class or our evaluation class, I'm using some tools I had but maybe don't use as much, such as like yoga, meditation, and just like mindful walking. So I've been using those things more in the past like week than I have probably in this whole program, and I find it to be very helpful.
Oh, I love that your parents are able to do that for you. Like what a emotional, like an emotional support system, you know. Um, Similarly, I had to really stretch. I stopped meditating every morning. I used to just do my 10-minute Calm app that I love, and I stopped doing it because who knows why? Worst time to quit, you know, as they say.
Mhm.
I literally the last couple of days have texted friends to say, can you talk at 4 o'clock? Can you go for a walk at 3:30 between two meetings? I literally have made it a point to do that because I kind of feel like I don't know. I just feel like the last couple of weeks with all the shifts at the federal level, because we're personally affected, my family, I just feel like everything's shifting so hard that I have to now put those darts in the sand. So, Micah, when you were like, I noticed the structure of this bookcase, like I noticed this desk holding, like it's like things around me, I need to notice more that I still have those things, even though everything else is kind of shifting. I still have those things, right? I still have those supports. I just need to use them more. So, and you said yoga, meditation, and mindful walking, which I'm putting on my sticky note here and putting up on my desk because I've fallen out of that too with you know ice
Oh,
and
I
this.
know. It's easy. It's easy for that to happen.
Literally, I'm putting it on my sticky note right here.
Good.
Hmm.
What about you, Michael?
For me, it's, you know, checking in with, family members, just to kind of just briefly share what my day was like, um, and being compassionate with whatever comes up,
Mhm.
and, be mindful if, they're, available to be open to my shares at the time. Um, and, reaching out to, um, a coworker, or, my supervisor to discuss things that, questions I have without judgment. So that's self-care for me. But then I guess in a more like I don't know, self-reliance is not the right word I want to use, but, you know, that's me reaching out, utilizing resources around me, but like internal resources, um, using breath, noticing, my body. So body scan.
Mhm.
Um, Those are some ones I really like. Movement, giving my permission, like if I need to like just get up and walk around, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's funny. The like psychoeducation thing I wanted to go over briefly is just how this conversation on independence. I know we've had little blurbs about it, during our group shares on and off screen. Um, of how the earth, as an example, or just nature, it is this wonderful structure, being, entity, whatever, you want to like, how do you want to describe it? Um, it has all this potential for, and does give, life. It's is how we're able to be alive right now. Without, the earth, then we either have to be in some other kind of form or something,
Mhm.
or we would just wouldn't be here. And
Right.
um, I'm just grateful for having that as a way to view things, and that seems to help me remind me that not everything has to be on my own because I feel like that's something that's been coming up at times, this semester, and I feel like I've heard that from other classmates is that like, we have to be these iron solid, professional beings. But I think,
Hmm.
with this reminder that we can be soft and gentle to ourselves, a reminder that we're human and that, we can support one another. Um, the trees, they, get oxygen. They, what's that cycle? Can't remember the science term for it, but they, take in I think what carbon dioxide and they breathe out the oxygen, how there's that, repeat, natural, just repetitive, cycle.
Yeah.
Um, how, even noticing at where I'm in a Hopewell, how, we're on this, farm kind of property and how, the cows, they are there, people get to notice them and witness them and, they get fed and, there's this, symbiotic, relationship. Um, I'm curious, what's an example of interdependence that you guys have noticed in your lives recently?
Mm. I'll talk about my dog again right now because this is this is interesting to me how I've been thinking about this, which is the when I started I'll talk about the evaluations class again. When I started the designing like what my interventions would be, I was like, well, I'll do I'll make sure that my day includes like a 30-minute dog walk. And I was like, that'll be good for me and it'll be good for her. And, sometimes I just take her out to the back and throw a ball for her, and that's probably not great exercise, enough exercise for both of us. So, right as I started to design that intervention is when she got hurt and she couldn't go on dog walks anymore. And I find I am unable to, it's hard for me to walk outside without a dog. I'm like, what are we doing out here? Like, what's the point? But if I have a dog, I could walk for, like all day because I'm like, yeah, we're doing this. There's a purpose to it. And so it's been really interesting to see. I know one of the reasons I have a dog is because it having a dog and having that routine is really good for me and it makes me go outside. And now I'm really seeing her dependence on me um to make sure that I'm caring for her injury in a way that isn't necessarily what either she or I want to do. Like I have to coax her into being slow. I also want to be out there walking around and enjoying the day, but like the our we are interdependent on each other for our well-being, but like I've really noticed it because that has changed shape recently.
I like that. And I have to say, it makes me think now the last couple weeks has been icy and terrible. And I haven't walked because, well, if I fall
Right.
at 6, if I wipe out, no, it's a little more, takes a little more to get back on my feet. So I haven't been. And
Hmm.
yesterday when I took her out, I was like, oh wow. Like, I mean, I've just been running her in my backyard. We have like 6 acres, but
Right.
not the same. She gets on that trail and she's sniffing. She's so happy. She's with another dog, my friend.
Yeah.
So I miss that. I miss that routine. I miss it for me. I miss it for her.
Yeah.
Uh, and disclaimer, one of us fell yesterday. It wasn't me, it was my girlfriend, but still, it was like, we realized like how much we'd missed walking together and
Yeah.
talking and the dogs, kind of parallel play. We've got the dogs, we've got us. And I miss the connection. So really have been so purposeful about scheduling literally times like, can you talk to me at 4?
Mhm.
With the intent to connect to somebody, which necessarily I didn't before, or someone would say, oh, we should talk or get together or plan a date. Now I'm like on it because I realize that interdependence of needing somebody,
Mhm.
especially now.
Mhm.
And nature, I love that, Michael. I love that you're surrounded by all that nature to remind us we are so deeply connected to nature and to the larger earth. It's just so grounding. Like your whole description of that, I was like, can I come there? Because it just feels so grounding to me as it just resonates with me, what you just said. So I'm going to carry that. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Um, So with connecting, this conversation of interdependence, let's bring it into, the video that we watched for today's discussion. Um, I thought it was interesting how this, organization that's, making an effort to um, support, emotionally, the family through the process of cremation, while at the same time um, being mindful of, because the environmental impact, of it. So I think that's important. That's a value that I have. Just being mindful of like, like what are ways that, we can honor, when, a loved animal friend has, crossed over, how can we, also support I guess the earth and environment, aspect of it. Um
And to that end, Michael, I wanted to say when I watched that the video, it was called Nature's Pet Loss, and
mhm,
I thought it was interesting they put the word nature in there, right? Because at first I was like, I didn't understand really the name of the company, like why they would name it that. But now after going through it, like the entire video gave me such a sense of understood connection of human animal
Mm.
bond and the importance of it, because that whole piece they did on showing you very transparently this is where your pet will be, and through the whole process it will have this ID tag, like a dog tag kind of thing, with them. And it got to the point that in that larger video I was referencing earlier, it got to that point that one of the key things that during euthanasia is people worry, like, how do I know that's my pet that's getting cremated? Like that's a real issue for people. And that transparency of that video, at first I was like, wow, this is like really detailed. And I thought, is it too much? Like, do people want to know that much information, or is it
Mhm.
too much,
mhm,
right? Like that visual of them lowering the pet. And I really think for some people, knowing that is a great thing. Um, Probably not for all clients. Maybe back up the train and say, do you like, do you want to know? Do you want to know what happens? Step by step, but they sure provide that for people who want that transparency. And that whole video, I was like, I wrote three words: gentle, transparent, and kind.
Mm.
And I don't know, what do you guys think? Like juxtaposed against like I know this is hard for you, Alexis, but like a regular cremation, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
totally. I thought about that the whole time.
right?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like it was really like I was saying, is it making you guys rethink, like, because I've always chosen the more traditional route, but now that it's sort of juxtaposed, I'm kind of like horrified a little bit in my, like, I just didn't know that was ever an option to do that. So
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't think that was a choice.
Well, I'll say now, we talked about this before we started recording, and but both of you were very understanding. I am still very sensitive to animal bereavement and grief videos and what cases, because I have like a lot of what I think it might be unresolved grief from the loss of my dog in 2021. But as I said earlier, this might just be how I am now, which is that's fine too. So I only watched this video because I knew we were going to talk about it as a way to protect myself. And I did think about I cremated my previous animal, and I was thinking about juxtaposing, you're right, the two things. And I like fire as like a ritual. And so like that didn't seem, and I know in my head it might not be true, but I know that what I have of my Lola is just her and her blankie. That might not be true, but I can't even think of a different thing or else I'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but I do appreciate that that place spent so much time ensuring people, reassuring people about it, because that is a major thing you think about, right? So I felt like I loved the fire ritual of it. I didn't really know about the environmental impact of it, but so I'm really glad that I'm learning about that and we're talking about it. But if I had a perfect scenario for what to do with my pets after I lost them. I wish that I like had like I lived on a farm. This is all fantasy. I wish that I lived on a farm and I knew I would live on that farm until the day I died, and they would be buried and then on the property, and then I would plant a tree. Like that's like the pie in the sky perfect thing to do with my loved ones. However, I don't know, that is not an option for me. So cremation felt good because then I could take her with me no matter where I ended up. But my sister buried her dog on her property, and I think all the time like, oh my God, if you move, oh no, what's gonna happen? Which is that's a very, I don't know, it's not even
I
my
have to say,
business, but
I watched that video on
I worry about them.
I watched a video on the Pet Cemetery. I had the same thought, Alexis. It was kind of it's everyone's random pets that are not in any way connected. Like that was my first reaction to it. So it's literally a pet cemetery, and you're walking through, and they're, I don't know if you watch it, but they're giving like shots of these different elaborate headstones.
Hmm.
At first, I was like, oh no, this is terrible. They're not with their person at home. But then I thought, you know what? The one thing that is the thread is that human animal bond that someone wanted to, that was the way they wanted to put them to rest. And among that strong human animal bond, that someone would go through that elaborate process, do the headstone, the lovely inscriptions on each of them.
Hmm.
So like I switched from being like horrified to be like, oh no, don't leave them by themselves there, to like
Yeah,
realizing as they went on the video, a couple of minutes, and they just kept, panning to all these different ones. So I thought, well, they're among that so much love for human animal bond.
totally.
Um, but to your point of being able to bury them with you, like on your property, on your farmland, I I have to say that's a thing because my kids, we've always had so many animals with, 4-H and all that. So here we are able to do that. I'm fortunate to have 6 acres.
Hmm.
We have a section for kitties, and we have a section for chickens
Hmm.
and rabbits. So it's like it's a real thing for them to
Yeah.
that the proximity to that animal. And I do you think I don't know, I think the proximity is like rem, I almost said remembery. My kids used to say, instead of memories, they used to say rememberies.
Uh-huh.
But I wonder if it's part of that bond, if that continuing bonds thing that they talk about is that proximity to like the trampoline's right here and Lucy the chicken is right next to me. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't
Yeah.
know the proximity thing, but
Well,
I
like I said, it was really important for me to have Lola's ashes like they're next to my bed. You know what I mean?
oh,
Like
so that
they're
is the bond.
the closest you can get. And my
Yeah.
intention is to have my ashes mixed with hers, like in the future, not now, but like that's my intention.
Yes, and you know what? Was it it was on one of the videos, I don't remember which one, but they actually took the ashes and then they mixed them, and they humans have like tattoos. They are
I've seen
able
it,
to
yeah.
incorporate that. That was something I never knew about that I'd like to offer as an option because I really would like to go to make one part of my practice this work, which surprises and shocks me because I cry at every single time we lose a pet, a friend loses a pet. Like, Alexis, I'm so sad for you. And sitting in that grief group on Thursday night, I observed an hour and a half grief support group. People who were about to lose a pet, anticipatory grief, people who had just lost a pet, and people who had lost pet years ago, but some event happened where they realized, like you, like, oh, I haven't grieved through the whole process.
Yeah.
I had to 2 times turn my video off.
Yeah.
2 times I had to turn my video off because of that. One was the intensity of the grief, and the other one was like a similar situation of mine. And how you, during that process as a veterinary social worker, it's going to touch all of us, I think, because so many people own pets, right? So I think in
Oh
some
yeah.
way, no matter what we do, whether it's, Michael, like you at the farm, or, like your patients at Metro, like we're going to encounter it. So I'm just starting to like explore that as a potential for me, but
Hmm.
understanding like I didn't understand. Like I thought it was really sort of linear, like you go through this grief process, but it's like very, I don't know, very uneven, I guess I might say, and
Hmm.
affected by so many things, gender, culture, um, this now what I've learned is about this natural process, and like I didn't understand the environmental impacts on the regular ways of, burying dogs or cats. Or
Yeah.
for me, I mean, like I said, I struggled last night to watch the videos. Like I literally was like crying.
Mm-hmm.
So don't watch them, Alexis, if you're not
I
ready.
won't. I'm not. Thank you.
Yeah. And do not watch the horse one,
Mm-mm.
the Eck one.
May I share two things really briefly, or Michael, would you prefer I hold them till a Q&A at the end or whatever? Am I interrupting your format?
You're not. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Two things, Robin, that came up for me while you were speaking. I appreciate your share and of your experiences, and you were spot on. So this week I wanted to tell you all I had a client who is a patient who's in the hospital, major depressive episode. And when I was doing my assessment, she had lost, she was describing like a number of losses she's had over the past handful of years. And she, without my prompting, I've lost many pets, she said as well. And so I was like, well, tell me about that. And she shared, so I mean, there were significant losses, like the father of her children, her mother, her sister. I mean, very big.
Oh,
And then pets she loved deeply. And when she was telling me, and then I checked in on her the next day, and I was talking to her, and she was recounting like a couple of images that were going through her mind that were really bothering her, or like situations. And one is she's estranged from her two of her children right now. But then also she was sobbing as she told me about a euthanasia experience with one of her dogs. She said they euthanized him and she wasn't ready. And he was just walking around one moment, and then she didn't really know that the euthanasia process was going to get started. And then he had just passed, and she could not breathe telling me about this. And I feel like that is such, I felt like I felt privileged because I felt like I was able to be in that room in that moment and like be in this program and really be able to provide the empathy that that person needed in the moment. Maybe not better than anybody else can, but like from a unique space.
yeah. That container. You were literally that container for her as she processed that grief. And I had asked the woman who ran the grief group, I said, can I ask how you do this? And she says, well, you know what? I was in traditional medicine, human medicine.
Hmm.
Had to like fix a problem, solve a problem, figure out how to treat it. She said, here, it was beautiful. She said, I am a container for their grief. And I watch them. I mean, do you feel like she processed that grief in front of you about that euthanasia, or just giving voice to that experience? Because that's
I think so, and
terrible.
I think I was able to be extremely affirming to what the depth of that trauma, and also like maybe boundary infraction or betrayal she maybe felt in that moment, like sort of to be able to say to her like that should not have happened. Like you're
Oh,
not overreacting. That should not have happened. I
oh,
think it's like
okay.
an important thing. But I know I'm a real crybaby around grief right now, but I also believe grief to be like one of the most beautiful things about being alive. I think grief like is so beautiful to me as well.
And she did say grief is just love that's unspent, right?
Hmm.
So the two times I literally had to turn my camera off, I did reflect on that. And I did have to ask her at the end, like I said, I love this work. I love this beautiful space you created for people. Like I encourage you guys, if you can, to just to like the depth of space she created. It's hard to explain, but she created this sort of multi-layered space of where everybody from every experience of euthanasia, like I said, the anticipatory, the just now, the post couple years, like the depth of that space she created. And she said, Robin, that is the intervention. That,
Hmm.
like she made me understand that is the intervention, that space you
Hmm.
create, that grief, that empathy, that, helping to guide the conversation and helping them process that. And she's like, that's a beautiful thing that we don't let people do in
Yes.
traditionally. A lot, people are like, oh, like, if someone's pet has passed, they're like, oh, well, it wasn't a person. Like it didn't
Yeah.
matter. It was insignificant to them. And for each one of these clients on that call, I was able then post call to say, oh, well, this was the significance in each of those cases.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I took it so to heart, so much that
Yeah.
my youngest son who's 18 that works at a vet, he goes, Mom, I stayed up and waited. It was Pacific time. And the call wasn't over until 11:30. He's like, I waited for you. He actually brought a box of tissues and threw it at the door because he heard me. Like,
Oh,
yeah. But I'm just saying like that space she created was so beautiful to hold all those emotions for people. But you did that for that client. You literally did that and hoping that, maybe in the next week or two with her, will you see her again or
I hope she's there. I don't know. But I did give her some resources. Uh, she's asked me specifically about a therapy dog, and so I like then did the education thing about like this is a therapy dog and this is an emotional support animal, and I gave her some information on how to pursue that, and then talked to her about pet loss grief groups.
was she inpatient at Metro? You said, oh, she was.
Yeah.
Shoot, does anybody know? I know UH has an inpatient. UH has a Pet Pals program. They have therapy dogs that are in UH that come, but
Yeah.
does Metro?
We
No.
have Metro, the hospital system does have it. They're not in the behavioral health hospital, which is something I am trying to work on right now.
What? Wait, what? Why? I wonder what huh. So yeah, getting access would be so important.
It'd be cool, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I hope you get to see her. I mean, selfishly, I mean, I hope she's not there, but I mean,
Yeah.
just to be part of that process, like you said, right time, right place, that you were able to hold that for her and process it. And you did it while you were doing yours. Like you're trying to process your grief through losing yours. So I'm so proud of you because it's so hard. Like I said, I had to go off camera twice. And we can't do
Yeah.
that with clients. Like we can't in front of clients, you can't be like, oh, I gotta go off camera for a second. So
Right.
yeah, just I'm glad you recounted that story. I really am. I really appreciate that. Because we all are going to run into it.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're all going to run into it. We should seek it out, as a matter of fact.
Great conversations.
Oh,
All right, I'm gonna bring the recording to a close right now, but we can um, continue our conversation. Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Michael, for leading this group.
thank you.